The Monkees, the television series that exploded onto the scene in the 1960s with its vibrant melodies and crazy humor, turned four young men into icons of popular culture. But behind the bright smiles on screen were dark secrets. Some of them died unexpectedly, others fell into addiction until death. Let's uncover the truth and pay tribute to the legacy they left behind. Let's go. Davy Jones, as Davy. David Thomas Jones was born on December 30th, 1945 in Longsight, England, and carried an artistic spirit from a very young age. When he was 20 years old, he became the romantic heart of the Monkees on television from 1966 to 1968, captivating audiences with his good looks, mischievous charm, and warm vocals on hits like Daydream Believer and I Wanna Be Free. David Jones was not only the standout face of the band, but also the soul of all 58 episodes, leaving a deep impression on millions of teenage girls who adored this British idol. He passed away on February 29, 2012, at the age of 66, after a sudden heart attack at his beloved horse ranch in Florida, where he often spent time training and caring for horses he loved like family. Jones's body was cremated, and his ashes were divided into several parts, with one portion placed next to his parents' grave in England and another sent to a church in Pennsylvania, a place he had purchased to restore as a site to preserve his musical legacy. Jones's net worth in 2012 was estimated at around $5 million USD, mostly from music royalties, television roles, and some real estate investments, although at times he struggled with divorce lawsuits and property disputes. David Jones's married life was turbulent and tragic. He went through 3 marriages, first with Linda Haynes from 1968 to 1975, then Anita Pollinger from 1981 to 1996, and finally with Jessica Pacheco from 2009 until his death. These relationships gave Jones 4 daughters, but also brought countless heartaches, especially with his last wife, with whom he and she repeatedly accused each other of emotional abuse in court. The pressures of fame, a packed performance schedule, and his failed marriages drove Jones to alcohol and stimulants in the late 1960s, something he himself admitted in his 1987 memoir, They Made a Monkey Out of Me. As a result, his heart health deteriorated rapidly, leading to the tragic heart attack that took his life at 66 years old, just a few weeks after he had restarted a tour with his former Monkees bandmates. Michael Nesmouth as Mike. Robert. Michael Nesmouth was born on December 30th, 1942 in Houston, Texas, and carried the spirit of an ambitious artist from his earliest years. When he was 23 years old, he became an indispensable part of the Monkees, 1966 to 1968, earning the nickname Wool Hat, thanks to his trademark knit cap and an irresistibly rugged style. Nesmouth was not only the group's lead guitarist, but also its creative soul, helping craft hits like Mary, Mary and The Girl I Knew Somewhere, while also leading his bandmates in the fight to gain control over their music in a showbiz environment full of restrictions. He passed away on December 10, 2021, at the age of 78, after heart failure at his home in Carmel Valley, California. His ashes were privately kept by his family, in accordance with his final wish for a discreet memorial service. Nesmouth's wealth in 2021 was estimated at about $50 million USD, including a massive inheritance from his mother, Bet Nesmouth Graham, inventor of liquid paper, along with earnings from his music, producing work, and investments throughout his career. Although wealthy, he had once struggled with a long lawsuit against PBS in the 1990s over video distribution rights, a case that ended in his favor with $48 million USD in compensation, but also drained him mentally and financially. Michael Nesmouth's personal life was also filled with fractures. He went through 3 marriages, to Phyllis Ann Barber, 1964 to 1972, Catherine Bild, 1976, and Victoria Kennedy, 2000 to 2011, leaving behind 4 children from these 3 relationships. These marital breakdowns, especially with his first wife, left Nesmouth unable to fully mend his family ties for many years. On top of that, the pain of losing his mother in 1980, when Betty passed away, delivered a profound blow to the heart of a son who had always taken pride in her legacy. Nesmouth once confessed he had to battle depression, particularly after the commercial failure of the band First National Band, despite critical praise. He bravely returned to the stage, continuing to perform alongside Mickey Dolenz on his final tour in 2021, before his aging heart could no longer endure following a quadruple bypass surgery in 2018. The passing of Michael Nesmouth closed the chapter on the journey of a pioneering musician who bridged pop and country rock, leaving behind an artistic legacy that will not be easily replaced. Peter Tork as Peter. Peter Halston Thorkelson was born on February 13, 1942, in Washington, D.C., carrying the free-spirited nature of the hippie generation of the 1960s. When he was 24 years old, he took on the image of the lovable goof of the Monkees, 1966 to 1968, becoming the group's main bass and keyboard player, bringing a unique humor and bohemian flair to the band. Peter Tork quickly became a teen idol with his optimistic personality, charming likability, and simple folk-inspired musical style reminiscent of the Greenwich Village scene. He passed away on February 21, 2019, at the age of 77, at his home in Willimantic, Connecticut, after a long battle with a rare form of salivary gland cancer. His ashes were privately kept by his family, without a lavish funeral, to avoid public attention. Tork's net worth at the time of his death was around $4 million USD, coming from his musical career, acting, and years of touring with the group Shoe Suede Blues and various smaller projects. Although he at times struggled with debt and medical expenses, Tork managed to retain some of the copyright value of songs he had contributed, like For Pete's Sake, the song that famously closed out the second season of the hit series. Peter Tork's private life was no less bitter. 4 patchwork marriages, 3 children with 3 different women, left behind emotional fractures that were difficult to heal. After the Monkees disbanded, Tork fell into hardship, even being arrested in 1972 for drug possession and spending a few months in jail, a painful fall that buried the reputation of a teen idol. He admitted many times in interviews that he turned to alcohol and drugs as a way to cope with the pressures of fame, pushing himself into a cycle of addiction throughout the 1970s. When he was diagnosed with a rare cancer in 1999, Tork underwent many rounds of surgery and radiation, determined to keep performing on stage right through to his final year. But the illness returned, extinguishing any remaining hope of recovery. The passing of Peter Tork closed the chapter on a life that was both tragic and brilliant, where a talented artist once brought joy, humor, and even the pain of an entire generation. Henry Cordon as Babbitt. Henry Cordon, born Henry Cohen, was born on January 6, 1920, in Montreal, Canada, before becoming a veteran star of the American entertainment industry. When he was 46 years old, he joined the Monkees as Babbitt, the grumpy landlord, always scowling yet full of comic charm, appearing in 7 episodes and creating a funny counterpoint to the reckless young band. Thanks to his natural acting and powerful voice, Henry made audiences remember Babbitt for those classic arguments, while cementing his place as a seasoned actor from the golden age of American television. Henry Cordon passed away on May 19, 2005, at the age of 85, after many years battling emphysema at Sherman Oaks Hospital, California. He was laid to rest at San Fernando Mission Cemetery, a resting place for many of Hollywood's famous names. His assets in 2005 were estimated at about $2 million USD, earned through more than half a century devoted to the stage and recording studios. Yet behind the voice that shaped so many childhoods, Henry Cordon's life was filled with personal pain. He went through 4 turbulent marriages, 2 of which ended in bitter disputes and tension over child custody. His last wife, Angelina, stayed by his side until his final moments, but the scars of marriage with Thelma and Shirley Citron still left dark shadows that haunted him for the rest of his life. Many believed Henry's emphysema was linked to his longtime smoking habits, but he never publicly confirmed it. Despite painful losses, such as the death of Alan Reed, his longtime friend, Henry continued to work with dedication into his twilight years. His career, from portraying Babbitt in the Monkees to the familiar roar of Fred Flintstone, was an extraordinary journey that few knew hid so much loneliness and bitterness behind it. Rosemary as Millie. Rosemary Mazetta was born on August 15, 1923, in New York, and stepped into the world of entertainment from childhood under the stage name Baby Rosemary, soon becoming a singing prodigy in the post-silent film era. When she was 43 years old, she appeared in the Monkees in 1966 as Millie, a gentle, loving mother figure who brought a warm, graceful presence to 2 episodes, providing the perfect balance to the mischievous chaos of the young band. Rosemary kept the same wit and quickness that had made her a star on the Dick Van Dyke Show, helping the role of Millie leave a strong impression on television audiences. She took her final breath on December 28, 2017, at her home in Van Nuys, Los Angeles, at the age of 94, after gently falling asleep beside her longtime caregiver and agent. The cause was believed to be related to old age, ending a journey of nearly 9 decades of tireless dedication. Rosemary's ashes were privately kept by her family, in respect of a legend. It is estimated she left behind about $8 million USD, built from her years as a child singer, her classic role as Sally Rogers on the Dick Van Dyke Show, and countless other hit television shows. But Rosemary's life was not only applause and ovations. In 1964, she lost her beloved husband Bobby Guy after 18 years of marriage, a shock that broke her heart. The loneliness followed her for many decades, until she found a pure friendship with Vince Miranda in the early 1970s. In her 2002 autobiography, Hold the Roses, Rosemary did not hesitate to reveal the enormous pressures of working non-stop since childhood fame, and the emptiness that followed once the stage lights went out. In her final years, she bravely shared with the public her battle against cancer, always keeping the humor and strong personality that earned her the nickname the patron saint of female comedy writers. When Rosemary passed away, the world did not just lose a sweet singing voice or a famous comedian, but also a beautiful piece of golden age American television history. Len Lesser as George. Leonard King Lesser was born on December 3, 1922, in New York, carrying the humorous and approachable spirit of an actor born to play supporting roles that shone just as brightly as leads. When he was 44 years old, he appeared in the Monkees in 1967 as George, a bumbling gangster who became a joyful source of laughter through silly clashes with the band. Len Lesser turned this character into a memorable splash of color in 2 episodes, thanks to his down-to-earth acting and naturally playful timing that had become his trademark on American screens. He passed away on February 16, 2011, at the age of 88, from pneumonia due to cancer complications in Burbank, California. His ashes were discreetly buried according to his family's wishes. Lesser's estimated net worth in 2011 was about $3 million USD, mostly earned from decades of steady work in film, television appearances, and patiently accepting being typecast in supporting comedic roles, something he himself had often spoken about in the press. Len Lesser's life, seen from the outside, seemed peaceful, but in truth carried much loss. He and his longtime wife, Marilyn Lesser, were together for more than 50 years until she passed away at the start of 2011, just a few weeks before him. A shock so great that Len fell into a depression, losing all motivation to live. In his final years, Len battled cancer quietly, still trying to appear on stage and attend fan gatherings, even as his breathing became weaker. People remember Lesser not only as the charming Uncle Leo on Seinfeld, but also as a soldier who had risked his life on Asian battlefields during World War II, then quietly rebuilt a Hollywood dream with his own smile. When Len Lesser's life came to an end, audiences felt like they had lost a piece of their childhood, a familiar face tied to endless laughter on television. Vic Tayback as Chuck. Victor Tayback was born on January 6, 1930, in Brooklyn, New York, carrying the Syrian heritage of his immigrant parents, and stepped onto the American stage with the image of a tough, talented, and confident actor. When he was 37 years old, he appeared in the Monkees in 1967 as Chuck, a bumbling but funny gangster, delivering satirical confrontations that made audiences laugh and left a memorable mark on a colorful episode. His rough, powerful voice and rugged yet warm appearance helped Tayback define a unique style, even in brief supporting roles. However, on May 25, 1990, Vic Tayback suddenly collapsed at home and was rushed to Glendale Adventist Hospital, where he took his final breath due to a heart attack at the age of 60. He was buried at Forest Lawn Memorial Park, Hollywood Hills, alongside many other Hollywood legends. Tayback's net worth at the time of his death was estimated around $2 million USD, accumulated through decades of hard work in film, on stage, and regular appearances in popular series. Yet behind the stage lights, Vic Tayback also faced no shortage of tragedies. He married Sheila Barnard in 1963 and had one son, Christopher, but was haunted his whole life by heart disease, having undergone coronary bypass surgery in 1983. Though he did not speak publicly about it much, close friends said he was a heavy smoker, which may have contributed to worsening heart problems. The stress of his profession, along with being typecast in rough villain roles, made Tayback struggle to find artistic freedom, especially in his later years as his fame began to fade. He died suddenly just as he was planning a return to the screen, leaving an unfillable sense of loss for fans and colleagues, because Vic Tayback was not only the famous Mel Sharples, but also a heart bursting with passion for the stage until his very last breath. Rip Taylor as Glick. Charles Elmer Rip Taylor Jr. was born on January 13, 1931 in Washington, D.C., and was a legendary comedian known for his colorful wigs and classic confetti-throwing routines. When he was 36 years old, he appeared in The Monkees in 1967, playing Glick, a bizarre, over-the-top villain full of satirical flair that only Rip Taylor could deliver. The character Glick, with his ridiculous yet witty style, brought explosive energy to the series, making him unforgettable to audiences. On October 6, 2019, he passed away at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles at the age of 88 due to heart failure following a seizure. His ashes were scattered in the waters of Hawaii, a free-spirited farewell befitting the unbreakable spirit of an artist. Rip Taylor's estimated net worth was about $3 million USD, accumulated from thousands of performances, a guest role in the 1992 animated The Addams Family, and countless late-night comedy shows. But behind that flamboyant mask, Rip Taylor endured an unhappy childhood, losing his father when he was only 2 years old, living with a mother who suffered from mental illness, and facing abuse as a child. Those wounds seemed to follow him throughout his life, forcing him to maintain a cheerful image before the public. Taylor once married dancer Rusty Rowe, but the marriage ended quickly, and later he had a long relationship with Robert Fortney amid countless prejudices about homosexuality. He did not fall into addiction, but he admitted to being exhausted by the pressure of constantly having to perform comedy to hide his loneliness. In his final years, Rip still defied age to appear in Will and Grace, The Emperor's New School, and even the movie Jackass 3D, proving his career was brilliant to his very last breath. A brave heart, a wild soul, Rip Taylor spread laughter and even tears, then left this world like a burst of bright confetti in the sky, unforgettable to all who ever loved him. Henry Beckman as District Attorney. Henry Beckman was born on November 26, 1921 in Halifax, Canada, and was 45 years old when he joined the Monkees in 1966. In the series, he portrayed a cold and stern district attorney, directly confronting the band in a tense and dramatic episode, adding a rare touch of realism and tension to the story. Beckman's poised presence, sharp gaze, and commanding voice made this character stand out in viewers' minds, even in a brief appearance. He passed away on June 17, 2008, in Barcelona, Spain, at the age of 86, with his second wife Hillary by his side. The cause of death was determined to be heart failure after a long period battling the illnesses of old age. Beckman's entire career, from Peyton Place to The X-Files, helped him accumulate an estimated net worth of $1.5 million USD, a modest but deserved amount for a dedicated actor. Behind the studio lights, Beckman's life had its share of darkness. He had endured the brutal wartime years, serving in the Canadian military during the D-Day landing on Juno Beach in 1944, a memory that haunted him for life. His marriage to first wife Cheryl Maxwell, along with founding the Duke's Oak Theater, once brought happiness and inspiration, but at times was suffocating as he tried to balance family and career. After separating from Cheryl, Beckman found peace again with Hillary, and proudly watched his son Brian become a talented scientist. The losses of close co-stars over many years left Beckman in depression more than once. And then, after more than half a century of dedication, Henry Beckman passed away quietly, as if closing a heroic chapter, leaving a legacy as a tough, resilient actor. Bert Mustin as Butler. Burton Hill. Bert Mustin was born on February 8, 1884 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and had reached 82 years old when he appeared in the Monkees in 1966. In this popular series, he played a strict elderly butler, bringing a sense of maturity and classic charm that contrasted with the band's youthful energy, leaving a memorable impression on the audience. He passed away on January 28, 1977, at the age of 92, at Glendale Memorial Hospital in California, after his health declined from old age. For more than 2 decades of perseverance, even though he only began an artistic career past the age of 60, he still managed to accumulate about $1 million USD from hundreds of small but memorable roles, a testament to a rare, extraordinary persistence in cinema history. Bert Mustin's life was like an emotional movie. He once graduated in engineering, sold cars, then worked at the Chamber of Commerce before finding his way to the stage. His 54-year marriage to Frances Robina Woods was the greatest source of spiritual support, but when she died in 1969, Mustin was plunged into a lonely despair that few could understand. Overcoming every pain, Bert Mustin still stood firmly on set, with laughter and gentle eyes, and then closed his life like a monument to character actors, quiet but irreplaceable. Milton Fro as Latham. Milton Fro, full name Milton Fro, was born on February 24, 1909, in Philadelphia, and carried the classic charm of Hollywood's golden generation. When he joined the Monkees in 1967, he was 58 years old, playing Latham, a strict yet humorous character who created plenty of awkward situations for the band. The image of Latham perfectly captured the old-school manager type that audiences often saw in sitcoms of that era, helping Fro leave a strong impression even in just one episode. He took his final breath on March 21, 1989, at the age of 80, after many years battling congestive heart failure, a disease that quietly wore down the health of a weathered artist. Milton Fro was buried at Forest Lawn, Hollywood Hills Cemetery, resting alongside countless legendary names, closing a long artistic journey with an estimated net worth of about $1 million USD, a well-earned reward for 4 decades of tireless dedication. Few knew that behind his polished appearance and stern face on screen, Milton Fro was a devoted husband to Doris Fro and the father of 2 children. In his later years, he faced considerable pressure as his fame faded, along with the burden of heart disease that wore down his spirit. From Batman to Bewitched to countless Jerry Lewis movies, Milton always tried to maintain the image of a professional actor, yet once admitted in an interview, "This world is harsh, and sometimes you just have to laugh it off." Behind that smile was the heart of an artist who had given everything to the American screen for nearly half a century. Gene Denarkski as Toto. Gene Denarkski, full name Eugene Denarkski, was born on September 13, 1933, in Brooklyn, New York, carrying Polish roots and the bold spirit of a young man raised in the city. When he appeared in the Monkees in 1967, he was 34 years old, playing Toto, a clumsy henchman who added humorous moments that contrasted with the band's naivete. Although Toto appeared only briefly, he still portrayed that reluctant villain style with great skill, leaving a special impression on the audience. Gene Denarkski's life ended on February 27, 2020, at the age of 86, after a sudden heart attack while living in Studio City, Los Angeles. His remains were laid to rest simply, closing more than 40 years devoted to screen and stage, with a modest net worth of around $1 million USD, but carrying the honor of a true artist. Alongside memorable roles in Star Trek, Batman, and Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Denarkski also left a deep impression playing Stalin in the play Masterclass, 1987, proving a diverse and profound ability to transform himself. Few knew that behind the stage lights, Gene Denarkski had faced heartbreaking losses. He married Patricia Andre, but her death in 2012 left a huge void, pushing him into years of loneliness. Despite that, Denarkski stayed firm in the profession until he retired in 2003, proudly opening his own theater bearing his name on Sunset Boulevard. In his final days, he lived quietly, far from the showbiz spotlight, still keeping the habit of sharing funny stories about the past, like the time he proudly told his granddaughters, "I acted in this movie," while taking them to see Close Encounters. A small yet haunting detail, because after all, Gene Denarkski only wanted the audience to remember him as a devoted dreamer, not a star obsessed with wealth and fame. Arlene Martel as Lorelei. Arlene Martel, born Arlene Greta Sachs, was born on April 14, 1936, in the Bronx, New York, carrying within her an artistic spirit and the desire to transform into any character. When she joined the Monkees in 1967, Arlene was 31 years old, playing Lorelei, a mysterious, fleeting, yet haunting woman who left viewers with a sense of both allure and danger. With the title of Hollywood's chameleon, Martel amazed people with her ability to change her voice, expressions, and even ethnicity in a magical way. Arlene Martel's journey ended on August 12, 2014, as she passed away at the age of 78 due to complications from a heart attack after many years of bravely battling breast cancer. She took her final breath in a hospital in Santa Monica, surrounded by loved ones. Martel's net worth in 2014 was estimated at about $1 million USD, gathered over decades of tireless acting work and appearances at Star Trek conventions worldwide, where she was forever remembered by fans as the cold, scheming yet proud T'Pring. But behind the stage lights, Arlene's life held no shortage of tragedy. She had divorced William T. McGarry, lost her partner Ralph Cummings, and then fell into years of loneliness and accumulated pain. Other roles like Gloria West in Columbo or Princess Serafina in Have Gun Will Travel only further reinforced the image of a talented actress with a fragile heart. In an unfinished memoir, Arlene once admitted that the pressure to always be perfect had exhausted her, so that at the end of her life, she longed for the simplest thing, to be called by her real name, Arlene Sachs, and remembered as a brave woman who dared to live true to her passion. William Benedict as Old Man. William Franklin Sater Benedict was born on April 16, 1917, in Haskell, Oklahoma, losing his father when he was just 3 years old and growing up thanks to his mother's tireless care. When he appeared in the Monkees in 1966, Benedict was 49 years old, portraying the Old Man, a small role but full of humor, true to his specialty in bringing warmth and charm to likable supporting characters. Benedict's youthful yet experienced face made him unforgettable to audiences, as a symbol of lovable everyday characters in American film. William Benedict's life ended on November 25, 1999, at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles at the age of 82, after a risky heart surgery while he was still battling cancer. He left behind an estate of about $800,000 USD, earned partly from nearly 70 years of relentless acting, from roles as newsboys and mailmen to the mischievous Whitey in The Bowery Boys, leaving a deep impression on many generations of audiences. Behind the studio lights, Benedict went through 2 marriages with Elle Bliss and Joan Campbell, but always kept his personal life quiet, rarely sharing it with the public. On Hollywood sets, he was known as a dedicated man, free from addiction scandals or controversies, though he still had to wrestle with the loneliness that followed once the spotlight faded. After appearing in films like The Sting, 1973, and Farewell, My Lovely, 1975, Benedict kept taking small roles until the end of his life, as the clearest proof of a burning, resilient love for acting across an extremely long path, still longing to stand in front of the camera until his final breath. Mickey Dolenz as Mickey. George Michael Dolenz Jr. was born on March 8, 1945, in Los Angeles, stepping into the age of 21 when he played himself in the Monkees, an iconic role tied to the band of the same name, where he was the drummer, lead singer, and also the television star who captivated audiences through 58 episodes. With an energetic voice in the hit I'm a Believer, Dolenz became the soul of the group, portraying a fun-loving, quick-witted, yet deeply caring young man, leaving a mark on millions of 1960s fans. In 2025, Mickey Dolenz has reached the age of 80, still standing strong as the last surviving member of the Monkees, with an estimated net worth of about $9 million USD, the result of more than 6 decades of singing, acting, and voiceover work, including playing the Joker in Batman, the animated series. After the deaths of his 3 bandmates, Davy Jones, 2012, Peter Tork, 2019, and Michael Nesmouth, 2021, Dolenz carried that broken heart onto the stage, continuing to perform as a tribute to their glorious past. Not only keeping his love of music alive, he has maintained his health with yoga and sports, releasing new albums and EPs in 2021 and 2023, proving he has never stopped dedicating himself. Dolenz has been through 3 marriages, beginning with Samantha Juste, the famous host of Top of the Pops. But this marriage ended in 1975, leading to tension around raising their daughter, Ami Bluebell Dolenz. Loss continued to haunt him when Samantha suddenly passed away in 2014, leaving a deep void in his heart. The 2 subsequent marriages were also full of turbulence, but with his current wife, Donna Quinter, Dolenz has found a late peace. He once publicly shared the feeling of exhaustion from the Monkees' dense touring schedule in his youth, to the point of losing himself. And now, at the age of 80, Mickey Dolenz still steps onto the stage, the spotlight shining on a face marked by time, as a touching testament to his unshakable faith in music and the fans who have never forgotten him. The tragic stories of the Monkees cast are not just sad chapters in Hollywood's book, but also reminders of the price of fame. From heartbreaking losses to silent battles with illness and addiction, they have left behind a legacy both brilliant and haunting. Which of their fates do you feel the most sorrow for? Leave your thoughts and join us in exploring more of the hidden sides of these icons.